High praise from Garry Kasparov, an absolute living legend of chess. That's when you know you've done something special. I'd go so far as to call this the game of the year. An absolute immortal chess masterpiece. It was played by Richie Rapport. He was playing against Ramesh Babu Pragnananda, a guy who's been on fire. But look at the creativity, look at the accuracy. Who does this in a King's Indian defence? Let's take a look. Prague goes d4. This is Uzbek chess tournament, classical time control in Uzbekistan. And this is what we get, pawn g6. Now, if you play knight c3, main line, it does give black the option of the Grunfeld with d5. But this is the so-called anti-Grunfeld move. Now, if you do it, there's this, and you can't take on c3. So white's doing quite nicely. Big centre. But okay, let's run back. Bishop g7, pawn e4, and look at all the space that white has already. It's why the top grandmothers are very nervous to play this system with black. You have to know so much theory. This keeps an eye on the e5 push, knight c3, castles, and knight g to e2. Prague's playing this same-ish variation. It's so aggressive. How do you fight back? Well, here we go. Just the ickle-wickle pawn push on the side of the board, but it sets up after bishop e3, knight bd7, queen d2, a gambito as the pawn pushes, sacrificing itself if white wants to take. Prague didn't do this. We're in the analysis mode. If you take, this is the general idea. Open up some lines, fight for the center, and the game goes on. Takes, knight takes, blah blah blah. Let's run back. It wasn't played. Instead, Prague plows down the board with h4. Very aggressive intentions. You could play in the center now to meet that flank attack, but here we see pawn h5. Definitely making some sense when it's hard for white to achieve g4. If you go gung-ho and just sacrifice, not actually that great for white. So instead we see the 0-0-0, opposite side castling right. Everyone's having a good time here. And it creates a threat of pawn e5. You know, say you play a nothing move, e5 comes and takes and takes and takes. And you've got problems down here now because the rook's also on the d file. So you can either go bishop b7, connect stuff up, or e5 as we see in the game. Now if takes, knight takes, it's what black wants. You start rotating into juicy squares potentially, if ever f4. So we see d5 played, keeping this bishop shut, and of course setting up a beautiful connect 4. Prague only goes and wins himself a trip to Subway with the one and only Vishy Anand. What a lucky guy. Of course he's going to go for the topping of
mushrooms.
Vishy's favourite. That's going to be a great day out. And now knight b6 looks to crash through on c4 here. Again, if takes, no good. You can jump immediately, pick up the bishop and open lines, blah, blah, blah. So in the game, we see bishop takes on b6. Now hang on, why give up the dark squared bishop? Looked like such an attacking menace. Well, now you get to take here. Yes, you're opening lines, but you leave black with a structure that only a mother could love. Meanwhile, you then want to get your kingside attack going. Now there's this crazy line where you do take, you allow black to take, and actually white's okay. You bring the second knight, you cemento stuff. If the rook checks, king hides out here, so what? But we see king b1 in the game instead, keeping Lord Hans Feingold happy. b4, Prague can settle too much. Richie cracks on, knight b5, and this is where the absolute fireworks begin. This is what had Garry Kasparov smiling. Because what does Richie play in this position? You'd never guess it in a month of Sundays unless you've seen the game or prepared, that kind of thing. He plays knight takes on d5, an absolute game changer. I mean, if this doesn't make you want to play the King's Indian defense, I don't know what does. This is why I talk about Lotus chess, by the way. If you want to learn a new opening like the aggressive King's Indian, it has literally never been easier. You just go to the description, get the link, download it on your phone, connect your Lichess or chess.com, and then away you go. Find the King's Indian, start playing through the lines, and because they've gamified everything, you don't even feel like you're learning, right? Takes you harmoniously through the lines, then shows you the crushing lines so that you can therefore learn what your opponents are likely to play at your level of chess, how to crush them, how to dominate, how to win in like 10-15 moves at times. So much fun to just go and learn an opening. Try the King's Indian today, link in the description. Now we see takes on d5 here. If queen takes, by the way, then this is the problem. The bishop comes streaming out. Now you take here with check. You don't want to step into the discovery, so you come here, but the queen checks. King blocks, king goes or queen blocks, but now you can run away and the rooks are about to come barreling down. The bishop can join the attack from out here. It's really bad for black, for white actually. You know, black's just killing it here. So we run it back. We saw pawn takes, and this is the follow-up now. Bishop f5 check. That's the second of 6 only moves in a row that Richie finds. It's his preparation, but it's still impressive. Now you can go queen c2. No, you can't. Just checking you're awake. King a1 is played here, and Richie whispers, do you even rook lift, bro? I dare you to go pawn b3. Kick my rook away. It's actually playable. Unbelievably, this is how the line goes. You even take the pawn and then you can sack an exchange and something like this. Apparently absolute madness here, pandemonium. You can't do this check, bishop drops, this kind of thing. I don't know, who knows what's going on. All roads lead to a draw when the mighty engine is playing. But okay, no b3, looks suicidal. So Prague goes knight c1, defending his king, opening this bishop here. We see queen d7, preparing to bring the second rook, pressuring the knight. So bishop c4 also comes into the defense. Rook c8 now hits the bishop, queen e2 covers, and e4, the 6th brilliant move in a row, or only move, let's say, to keep an initiative going here, and it opens the bishop, and we see a blunder from Prague. Now technically he should play some kind of waiting move like this, or rook hf1. Idea being, when you get a line like this and pawn b3 to open up the 2 rooks on the bishop, you can take with the bishop now. Rook b4 hits the knight, it can save itself, you can attack it again because the pawn is pinned, it can bounce back, we can have a perpetual. Who's finding this stuff if you haven't prepared with an engine? But we didn't see this waiting move, we saw this. Now what is the subtle difference? We get the same line, the pawn recaptures, rook a5 now played. You were encouraged to do so because you were attacked. But here, the knight is attacked and it can't come back to a3. There's no way to get to that square. How do you defend it? Or where do you move it? Now the top move's actually this, not played, understandably, because you can take here with check, rook recaptures, and now pick up the 2 knights for the rook. The bishops look amazing, and black indeed stands better here despite being an exchange down. Very unsafe king. But we didn't see this played. In the game, bishop c4, but it gets the double question marks of doom. Now you might be thinking takes, queen takes, then pick up the knight, right? And certainly black does stand better here. Again, despite the exchange down, the bishops actually are cutting across the board. You do get a better game if you make the right steps here. Sample line, black's a bit better, but let's pause it. We didn't see that played. Instead, we saw a brilliancy. Can you guess the move that Richie played in this position? He played bishop to c2. What an absolute thunderbolt. Kasparov falling off his chair there, because after queen captures not played, you can play this, bishop takes, rook crashing through, look at all this bad stuff happening here. So knight d3 to cover, but then rook takes on b5. So what if you try this? Well, then the rook takes anyway. Here's a sample checkmate. Unbelievable stuff. So the queen can't take. Walks into the pin, you grab the knight. So instead, we see rook d2. You know, that rook was attacked. Okay, what are you doing now? Where's the bishop going? Well, it bounces around here, hits the knight for a third time. So the knight moves away, but now rook a c5 double stacks, and you cannot move the bishop. You know, you want to do that. You want to play here or something, but then rook takes and it's checkmate. So because the bishop can't move, what happens if you play b3? Then there's this absolutely unreal pawn b5. No doubt the players saw this, and if you take, carrying on your threat, then black can take here. There's a huge amount of pressure. You're still attacking this. What if this? Then there's takes here, and you're removing one of the defenders. None of it works out. So we didn't see pawn b3. We saw knight c6, desperately trying to interrupt the connection of these rooks here. But now bishop takes on c6. If pawn captures, this game's nuts, by the way. It's making my head spin. I'm sure it's making all of us spin. Queen takes, and you got the same problems. You can't move or you crash through. Can't go b3 this time. Pin. You know what to do. Here's a sample line. Let's say everything liquidates. Well, here it's just a better endgame for black. Pawns ahead, better minor piece, streaming around here and here. Amazing. So we come back. We saw this move played, hitting the rook. Now rook takes on c4. Queen recaptures, and bishop b5. Opens two pieces, attacking. Don't Botez Gambit, and don't take the pawn. Bam, you're in jail. Where's the queen going? One square only, and there you go. It's good night Vienna. The lady's dead. These lines are just nuts. So the pawn not taken. Queen e4 is played. Bishop c4. X-ray attacking the pawn in front of the king on a2. So we see rook c2 and b5. Cementos and dares white to play knight d2. Try and pick up all of that stuff there. But then there's queen a7. And say you carry on crashing through, pawn b3. Look at these lines. I mean, I can't get over how good this game is. You're crashing through, you can cover, but you can still take, right? Now be careful, check. So this is the best way, and actually giving the queen best line. Wow. So we come back here. We didn't see knight d2. We saw knight c1, trying to cover the king. Threatened to take here, so no rook a8. Richie switches this way. Top move here. He's playing the game of his life, an absolute immortal. Queen a7 played. Who plays at nearly 99% accuracy? A King's Indian, 37 moves. He's going for a mate or a b3 action. The knight's the only defender. So rook takes played. It is the best defensive move. Getting rid of that monster, but this one sniping down the diagonal remains. And here we go. This has got to be the icing on the cake. Pawn b3. I mean, it's almost as stunning as the Twitter page dedicated to Richie Rapport's shorts. Loves himself a colourful pair of shorts. We saw it at the World Champs with Chill Loren. What's the point of this? Simply, however you capture, you're opening the lines for the rook. You know, queen takes, rook b8 immediately, converging with the bishop. Knight takes. Then there's this queen invasion, mate threatened. So let's say you block with the rook. The rook invades. Now we see why it slid to e8. It's so active. Queen defends. But oh no, my queen. It's dropping. Where do you move it? You either take the rook or move away and get absolutely bamboozled. So we come back. The pawn wasn't captured. We saw rook d1. Now we get takes. Queen takes. Desperate for a queen exchange, but no luck. Queen f2, of course. Keeping the pieces on the board. I mean, I say of course, but as in you want to keep the ladies on when you're attacking, and it threatens this pawn, threatens queen c2 to hit the rook. This one can now slide to the b file. Queen b3 tries to cover some key squares. Sure, you can check, but the king slides over. So instead, we see the finisher, final move of this stunning game of the year. rook e3. What a rook lift to end the game. Prague resigns. Why? We'll say you go, I don't know, queen a4 to stay with this diagonal, then you just get mated. So you have to stay with the pawn, but you can't go here or here because the rook, can't go here because of the queen. So let's say you go queen a2, then there's queen c2, and you just put white in the most incredible Zugzwang. How sadistic is that? This is a sample line. White can basically not move anything. You know, you move the knight, then what's happening? I can't remember. Bad stuff. Maybe rook b3. Where to go? You can now threaten this switcheroo. So the queen saves. The knight can block if you check. But let's say you hit the rook. Rook saves itself. Now we go here. How do you defend it? You don't. You can try this, but check. And the queen's got to block. You can even play this. Twist the knife at the end there. What an unbelievable line. And this is just one sample. Not premature to resign. Wow, utterly incredible. Check out Lotus Chess below if you want to try the King's Indian defense. Give it a go. You can get started in minutes. And if you want some more epic chess, have a look at the game on the screen. Thanks a lot for watching and see you soon. Cheers.